Hello, I'm Sarah and I'm from Little Brushes Art Club. Today I want to show you how to do a collage picture using some handmade painted paper. So I'm going to show you first of all some examples of some work that some primary school children did at one of my art workshops. So here's some examples, and as you can see they've all been used the different textured paper that's been cut out and then placed to make a picture. So there you go, there's one. We have a sunset using some other different types of colours. And some nice bits of food using the collage papers again. Now all of these have been, we use scissors to cut the paper, but actually if you're working with small children you could just tear up the paper to make it easier. So now that's kind of my introduction, but I'm going to go on to the first step of the project, which is what you'll need. So step one, this is what you'll need for your collage. I've got a mixture of paints here, which are just your children's poster paints. So for me, I'm going to do an autumn picture, and I'm going to use colours like red, browns, I've got a yellow, orange, I've got white and black, and a little bit of green. I've also got lots of pots. These are just some cleaned out kitchen pots from the recycle bin, so they can be used to mix up colours. I've got a little pot of water, because I'll need that. And then on this tray here, I've got all my mark making tools, which you can just gather from around the house. So I'm just going to go through these, because they're things that are all easily available around your house. So I've got some bubble wrap, I've got just some bunched up kitchen roll, I've got a few different paint brushes, I've got a glue stick, I've got some little sponges there for doing some dots. If you haven't got those kind of sponges, you can always use a cork or a lid of anything there, just if you want to do any spots or dots. And I've also got just like a store card, not a credit card, just a store card that we can use to make lines. And then I've got a smaller paintbrush there to use the end of. Oh, and I've also got some lolly sticks. If you've got any lolly sticks, they're quite handy to use. So we have our paints, we have our mark making things, and then you just need some paper really. So the paper that I'm using is just your normal printer photocopy paper. So it's not that thick, but you're going to be tearing it up or cutting it, so it's fine. So that's basically all you need for this step. Okay, so this is step 2. So I'm going to start painting my bits of paper here. So I've decided, I think I'm going to go with orange first. So I'm going to wet my paper first. So I've picked this brush here that's a nice thick brush, and I've dipped it in just clean water, and I'm going to just paint a bit on my paper. And it just means that when I put the paint on, it'll spread a little bit. So I'm going to go with the orange. So we'll just get a bit of this orange in here. Now it's probably best if you add a little bit of water to this, just to make it a bit more gloopy. So I'm just going to go over my water now, and you'll see what happens. So just spread it on, don't worry too much, and just try and get to the edges of the paper so you can paint both ways. And just spread the paint out and get plenty of your paint on. Okay, so I'm just going to hold that up just a little bit there. But now I'm going to work into this using one of my lolly sticks, I think. So I'm just going to go for doing some squiggly lines on this paper. And as you can see, when I do it, it kind of takes away the paint and you're left with a lighter orange of the paper underneath. So don't worry too much about this because you'll be using it to cut up anyway. So just have a bit of fun really and make your textures. Oops. So now I think I'm going to go the other way. And that's your first sheet done. So we'll just put that to one side and leave that to dry. So that's my orange. So now I'll just put that there. I'm going to work on a yellow. So this time I'm going to use my same thick brush. I'm going to get some of this yellow paint in. And you can do as many of these papers as you want, so don't worry about them too much. If you go over it, there's no mistakes. So if you think you've gone wrong, you probably haven't, because you can always use this paper. So if we just get a bit more yellow going. Okay, so again, I think I might just do half of this sheet, so I'm just going to put on as much as I can, both ways, and just try and go up to the edge. So this is my yellow. So on this one, I think I might just have a go with the bubble wrap. So I'm just going to lay this on top of it and just gently press down. And you should be left with lots of little dots from the bubbles. Just gently peel it off. And there you go, that's our next textured paper. I'll just hold that up a little bit. So as soon as I'm with the yellow, I'm just going to use this other part here. And I think I'm just going to add a little bit of brown. And go for a darker yellow. So it's all just about playing about with the colours really. Because if it's going to be autumn, all the leaves are going to be these sort of shades anyway. So here we go with the next one. So again, just put it on quite thickly. Don't worry about overlapping. And try and get right to the edges. So on this one, I think I'm going to try this. I'll show you what to do with this, just a store card it is. So you can just slide this along, either the corners or the edge. Just pull it down, lift it up, pull it down, and just play around with it and just make textures and marks with it. And it just pulls away the paint. You can probably do a kind of wobbly line. And there we go, another sheet of textured paper, the yellow. So we'll just leave that one to dry. And then I think we'll move on to a brown one. And then I think I'll just let you all carry on and do some sheets for yourself. So I'm going to do a brown one now. So here's my brown paint. Now I'm thinking of the tree trunk, so I'm going to do the whole sheet in the brown. I might just need a bit more. as much as you like, paint it on nice and thick. And don't worry too much about getting it all over. Now I'm going to use the end of just a paintbrush here, and I'm just going to do some crisscross, I think. So I'm going to do half of this. So I'm just going to do some lines. And then the other way. So that's one half, and then on the other half I think I'm going to do some spots, so I'm just going to pick the yellow, I think. And this is just a little sponge that should just give us some dots on here. And then I'm going to put some more yellow in. Okay. Now, if you haven't got a sponge, you can always just use the lid of something. So just dip that in, and off you go. And if you want, you can let these papers dry in between and add more texture and pattern when they're dry. Okay, so that's my brown sheet. So for the moment we're just going to leave those to dry, and then we'll be moving on to the next step. Okay? So the next step of the collage is going to be cutting and putting together the picture. So for our papers, to sort of speed up the process, you can use a hairdryer to dry them so that they're all ready. So all of my papers that I did earlier, as you can see, are all ready here to go. So I'm doing an autumn picture, but you can do any kind of picture you like, really. So I'm just going to take what in my mind I see as the trunk of a tree, and I'm going to draw on the back of this sheet my first piece. So I'm just going to roughly draw now, but it really doesn't matter because you're going to cut it out anyway, so don't worry about this too much. So it's just a rough outline of how you want the branches of your tree. Okay, and then I'm just going to get some scissors and I'm going to cut my shape for the first piece. Now, if you're okay with scissors, that's fine, but if you're only a little one, you might want to tear this to make it easier, which gives just as nice effect, really. So I'm just going to cut this out. And there's my first bit of my picture. So all of these little bits, just put them to one side because you'll probably use those later on. So again, this paper is just your normal printer copy paper, and I'm going to put that right in the middle. I'll just trim off that bottom bit, and that's the trunk of my autumn tree. So I've cut some shapes out before using all of the colours. So I've used my yellows and my browns and my oranges, and I've just sort of cut a bit of a leaf shape. But if you're not happy doing it like that, you can draw it first. So if you just choose the colours you want, so let's say if we have some yellow, so this was one of the textured papers from earlier, so I'm just going to turn it over and I'm just going to do some really easy leaf shapes. If you want to do a little stem on your leaf, that's fine. Again, it depends on how much you want to do with your cutting. You can either make it more complicated or a simple version. So here's some of my yellow leaves. Now the thing with collage, the best thing is to just place everything down first, and then you can play about with where you want everything to go before you glue it down. So with some of the leaves I've cut, I'm going to just place these all down before I glue it in place. So just to kind of give me an idea. And again, don't worry, it's your picture. There's no mistakes here. It's you can just do it how you want and just place the leaves in any kind of order. So I'm going to just go ahead and stick this down just so that you can see the next process. So I'm just going to move those a bit now. If you want, you can do a background, you can add other kinds of paper. I did find some tissue paper in the house and just some old coloured paper that I had. So if you want to use plain paper as well, that's fine. If you want to use tissue paper, you can just tear the tissue paper, which gives a really nice effect too. So again, you don't have to worry too much, you can just tear it and place them in between some of your handmade papers. So I'm going to go ahead and glue now. So for the glue, you can either use your normal Pritt stick glue, which is fine and easy, or you can use your sort of school glue, which is your PVA white glue. So I think because I'm going to use quite a bit, I'm going to go with the PVA glue. So I've just got a spatula here, but you can use a little brush or a lolly stick, anything that's handy. So I'm going to just put some glue here. And I'm going to start sticking, so I'm going to just place some of my leaves back over here. And I'm going to glue my tree trunk. So if you're using this PVA glue, it dries clear anyway, so don't worry about getting it on the picture really. Okay, so we just glue all that down. If it's easier, you can just put glue onto the white paper really. And then I'm going to start gluing these leaves on. So off we go. And then if you want to do some of the leaves like they've fallen off the tree, I think I'm going to put some at the bottom so it looks like they're all down on the ground. Again, if you want to use tissue, you can just tear that and just put that in between some of your textured paper. And then just keep going, building up your picture and using all your dried paper. And I'm just going to keep going on this now. Okay, so I'm kind of at the end of my collage now, so I've stuck on a bit more of just the tissue paper that I tore up at the bottom with plenty of glue. So I'm just going to add a few more of the last leaves that are kind of falling off the tree, and then I think I'm done. There we go, my autumn tree. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you make some nice collages. Thank you for watching. Bye.